Red One has been out for a couple of weeks. New Christmas action comedy directed by Jake Kasdan, who previously made the two modern day Jumanji movies. This also stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, with the addition of Chris Evans, Lucy Liu, J.K. Simmons. This was originally made as an Amazon Prime original, and then it was put in theaters right before Christmas, but bombed super hard apparently, at least in America, and was pulled back from theaters after just, I don't know, 2-3 weeks and put immediately on Amazon Prime as originally intended. The plot is that Santa Claus, played by J.K. Simmons, gets kidnapped by an evil witch, and his chief bodyguard, The Rock, who was one day away from retirement, like in all good 1980s cop movies, has to team up with Chris Evans, a cynical asshole bounty hunter, to track their missing person down. So I absolutely hated this movie. I saw that it wasn't doing so bad with audiences at IMDb. It currently sits at 6.3 audience score out of 10. I'd say that's not bad. But to me, it's a terrible example of this dreadful, creatively bankrupt blockbuster cinema of today that is not even trying to do anything fresh, but rather just reuse and recycle elements that people liked in other movies. Chris Evans is essentially Ryan Reynolds. The Rock is, weirdly enough, Ant-Man from the Marvel movies, and Lucy Liu is ripped from Men in Black, basically. And you know, the film is kind of an amalgam of these three key elements. It's a film that moves from one manufactured set piece to the next in a weakly sort of written plot that has to be explained directly to the audience with an exposition scene every 20 minutes or so. The humor is mostly flat. The performances feel phoned in, especially by The Rock, who kind of is like a non-presence in the film. He honestly just seems bored being in it. I do think Chris Evans was kind of trying, but he can't save this script. And J.K. Simmons is basically absent from the film for most of its runtime, so he's just completely wasted. The thing I hated the most, though, is the entire aesthetic of it all. The high-tech North Pole with Santa's employees being superheroes dressed in leather and spandex. The stupid way that some things are technology but some magic, but actually most of the technology is magic. The fact that most of the scenes take place in locations which have very little to do with the Christmas spirit. There's a tropical beach. There's an American university that seems to be filmed in the middle of summer. There is some nondescript airport hangar, and even North Pole locations look more like a sci-fi city other than anything Christmas related. And of course, everything is being shot on terrible green screens. The one shining point for me was the Krampus sequence, where for about 15 minutes or so, the movie suddenly becomes almost pretty good. There's an atmospheric winter castle filled with interesting looking and fun creatures made mostly with makeup and prosthetics instead of CGI. And you get a sense, okay, now something interesting and something funny is happening for a change. But then we're quickly back to the regular bullshit, which is indistinguishable from the recent Marvel slop or things like, I don't know, Fast and Furious. I had an awful time watching it, and maybe it's not an objectively terrible movie, but everything about it is just so bland, low effort, corporate, and hollow that it just made me kind of irritated. And I am a little bit sad to realize that there are people who find this film to be okay or for it to be decent, because if this is the standard that we've fallen to today, well, I'd say mainstream cinema isn't doing so hot.